Hey, welcome to Hartford Public Access, world headquarters of the Whaler Guys. I'm Jerry Irwin, this is Peter Hindle, and here we're back for another episode of the Whaler Guys, and you guys are the brigade. All of us together are bringing this NHL team back, whether those non-believers believe it or not. So what do we tell them, Pete?
We tell them to shut your blowhole.
That's
because
right.
If you listen to us, we're pretty fair. I mean, you may consider us biased, but we are fair to the point that if there was no chance in hell, we would tell you. We would just flat out tell you. But, we keep saying it's a process, and I keep saying that because we could be here a year from now, and maybe some things have changed, but it's not exactly the NHL is going to come back tomorrow, is what we're saying.
I don't know if I could take another year with you.
Really? That's
I don't
a
know.
good point.
Yeah, so that should be our motivating factor.
Look at this. We're going to break up on air?
We're going to have a breakup on air.
On air. All right.
But it'll be a joyous
over here. I'll go
breakup
over here.
because the Whalers will be back.
Well, yeah, maybe some people don't like us together.
And then we can buy beers for each other.
Well, that's different.
Son of a gun.
That's how you
Imagine that.
bury a hatchet right there. That's how
That's
you do
right.
it.
You do with
You
a
go
beer
to a Whaler game?
or an Irish whiskey.
Yes.
That's right.
But again, it's a process, and we still have to wait a little while.
That's right. So some NHL news to talk about. The NHL is suing the National Hockey League Players Association to reinstate Dennis Weidman's 20-game suspension. What do you think about that?
I think you touch a ref, you deserve everything you get. I mean, it's just not, it's funny. The more and more as sports develop, there's just this common theme where these players seem like they can touch a ref. You can't. You can jaw at them a little bit. Some of the refs are pretty good about it. If you're fair and you're reasonable, just, watch what you say. But now that they're touching refs, hitting refs,
that's the only balance. There has to be order. It's controlled chaos.
Yeah.
They need to be out there. They need to uphold the rules, and you shouldn't touch the ref. That should be, you should be suspended indefinitely.
Yeah. And if the ref touches a player, same thing.
Same thing. They're not so entitled that they can't face discipline or whatever, but there has to be some sort of respect for that authority on the ice.
Right. And that goes with all sports. I'm not sure what the deal is. But anyway, that being said, I don't know. I would suspect that they uphold the entire, I think this is kind of just his chance to get an appeal, see if he can get it down to 10 games or 5 games or 8 games.
And the National Hockey League Players Association has to back their member.
Right.
So there has to be a back and forth.
Yeah.
There has to be a negotiation. I still believe 20 games was fair for what he did.
Yeah. And the point is, you hate to say it this way, but you got to send a message. You got to let players know if they touch the ref, you're going to be facing the same kind, and it could escalate. You could end up the next time that someone hits a ref, you could get 30 games.
Sure.
You're talking about half a season here. So is it really worth it to even lay your hand on a ref? I
think it's an uncharted territory when it comes to hands on an official.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it. It hasn't happened. It happened. Now they have to go through the process.
Right. And it happened a while ago, too.
It happened last season, towards the end of the season.
Right.
They didn't know if he would be available to come back. He came back.
That's right.
So they're going to now go through this process. The other news in the NHL is the Florida Panthers, one of the teams that we talked about moving here to Hartford, relocating to Hartford, has unveiled their new logo and their new uniforms. And as we talked about on our podcast that we just did, and it should be up by the time you see this show, it looks like a soccer uniform. It doesn't look like a hockey uniform. Yeah,
it's a logo that kind of gives it's almost a shield, and it's got a more, I guess you'd call anatomically correct mountain lion. It looks like but it's still, they kind of left that cartoon Panther they had that for about 20 years.
I liked it.
I didn't have a problem with it, but it's 20 years. They figured do a rebrand. They just got that new contract with the city. The NHL had worked it out. We were wondering if the Panthers might, come up here and relocate, but they're going to stick it out in sunny Florida. So we'll see what it does. Now the jersey change, we'll see how that goes. But I don't think it's definitely going to pass the Whalers in sales. That's for sure.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
We encourage failure.
Yeah.
But, the other big news is P.A. Parento had a fantastic year. All the Wolfpack fans know P.A. Parento as a fan favorite, a very nice guy. We met him at Vaughn's Public House on a St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. And we ended up buying each other's rounds. He was a great guy to talk to, and apparently a little Irish because we had a great time with him.
Yeah.
But he had a fantastic season last year with 20 goals and 43 points overall, with the team best 20 goals which isn't saying a lot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But for PA, I'm glad he had a good season. He had second best 43 points. And so he's coming back, and they're looking to sign him as a restricted free agent or unrestricted free agent this year. He's going to ask for more money because he was an offensive threat last year. So it's some bargaining power for him. I hope he gets what he deserves. I hope, and he even said he enjoyed playing in Toronto and he enjoyed seeing where the organization was headed. So to see that from P.A. Parento, that's a lot of good news for our local Hartford fans that saw him play here in Hartford.
Yeah, and we got Carl Hagelin, who's playing with Pittsburgh Penguins. They're playing tonight. Tonight would be Game 5 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It'd be the first time that they win on home ice in their entire history, and I believe they started from '67, so you're talking about 49, 50 years. And Carl Hagelin, of course, was on the Connecticut Whale, and he played the end of one season into the next, but he only played like 17 games for the Connecticut Whale, and then he was shot right up to New York, and now he's got a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and boy, I think the Rangers are a little sorry they let him go. They let him go sign with Anaheim, then he got traded to Pittsburgh. Jim Rutherford, the former Whaler GM, brought him in, and he's been an instrumental piece in their Stanley Cup run. And maybe they can wrap it up tonight. We'll have to see.
He was a former GM, Jim Rutherford with the Whalers, and obviously left because he was going to retire when he left Carolina. I think he saw the writing on the wall, as we've seen with the news this week with Peter Karmanos and his financial problems. It turned out earlier in the week that it was reported that his 3 sons were suing him for $105 million because he was dipping into their trust fund. Now it's come out that he owes the NHL over $300 million.
Right.
And as one of our posters, Brendan Lynch, said, who is in that type of market,
when you default,
default on $20,000, it's a $5,000 penalty. When you're up to millions of dollars, it's millions of dollars that you're defaulting on, and the penalties are much bigger. So Mr. Karmanos is in a whole lot of trouble financially. He was looking for a buyer as the majority owner to keep them in Carolina.
Right.
But with anyone who buys that club as a majority owner, can move them wherever they want. But rest assured, Gary Bettman is keeping us well in the loop, and he said there's no threat of Carolina relocating. And as we know with Gary Bettman, whatever he says is definitely not what's going to happen.
Without question. I mean, you talk about a guy, if you could say propaganda, he's going to say whatever the Board of Governors wants him to say. There's no way. Like we made the joke about, he could be the captain of the Titanic, and a half hour after the boat hits the iceberg, he's on, everything's fine, go back to your cabins, enjoy your meal, slight slant, don't worry about it, be through this in a minute.
We'll straighten out.
Something smells south of cheese there. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe Carolina does get an investor locally. That would be the best thing for them if they did that. It wouldn't be the best thing for us. Best thing for us would the whole thing to go down in flames, and the investment group here purchase and move our team back.
And it's time for the investment group here to really become hockey savvy and go out and purchase one of these clubs, because there's 3 clubs that we have found out that have a line of credit through the NHL. So it's up to our investment group to really start focusing on the future. And my opinion, and my opinion only, is not only have the investment group purchase the NHL club, but have them invest in the future of the XL Center. Now that would be a win-win on both levels. And if the governor was speaking with the investment group on that subject matter, it would take all the attention off of how bad the budget is, and that he's trying to bring business into the city with the NHL club, and money into the city to generate revenue downtown.
3 teams with a line of credit. That's 10% of the league you're talking about. Now, obviously, the reports are that Carolina's one of them. You got to think Phoenix is there. And with the way that the Florida Panthers gave away real estate, the NHL gave away real estate to the city in Broward County to keep the team there. Maybe the Florida Panthers are that 3rd team that has a line of credit. But these are the franchises that are struggling, and there's plenty more that are, on bubble kind of watch. We've heard the Devils aren't making a ton of money at the Prudential Center. Columbus has not had the most, impactful attendances, that they've had since they've been there. So, we just keep our eyes on it, and, as we continue on, the XL Center gets, as many renovations, upgrades, spit and glue repairs. This year's going to be a little lean this summer. It's going to be a little lean on XL Center repairs.
You attended a breakfast, and you found out a host
Yeah.
of information, specifically to do with the ice surface.
Yeah, the Business for Downtown Hartford held a meeting this past Wednesday, and the special guest was Michael Freemuth and Susan Hopgood, who's the director of the CRDA, the chairman and chairperson, and Michael Freemuth is the executive director, and they talked for nearly a good hour about the housing projects and how well that's going. Right now, Hartford is absorbing the market of housing that they put out there, and they've been doing well. They got about 80% occupancy overall when you put them all together, and 3 of those buildings are at 90%. But even like the lowest one would be Front Street, it's 69% occupancy since they opened in October. And as the Excel Center, they did talk a little bit about that, and next summer they do want to do that ice sheet at a cost of about $2.5 million, get a new ice sheet in there. Then you could actually say to the NHL, we're working on the renovations, but we have a brand new state-of-the-art ice sheet, so there'd never be a problem with the ice again. As you know, over the last couple of years, they've had issues with the ice. Freemuth brought up, and we talked to Bob Saint about this too, the detail of the story changed a little bit. Bob Saint said that there was a Zamboni that was borrowed from the Winterfest, and they said the Zamboni was driving down Trumbull and Main Street, and that just sounded awesome, but the way Freemuth told the story was that they towed the Zamboni from, because it's not a registered vehicle, I guess, so, but, the Zambonis at the Excel Center broke down, both of them. They actually had to borrow a Zamboni from the Winterfest Carnival that's out in, that's not exactly a high-tailed, let's just say that was not a 2012 Zamboni that they borrowed, but they needed that, so they replaced the 2 Zambonis with 2 Olympia ice resurfacing machines. Those are probably, $200,000 for the both of them. And the other thing they talked about that was in the atrium space, the elevator that runs, towards the Coliseum Club and is next to the escalator. You can access the overpass to Church Street. That elevator needs to be completely redone. It's been a disaster for many years. We've had all kinds of issues where they're not working. People get stuck, this not working right. But to replace that elevator alone, Freemuth quoted a price of $400,000, which is just absolutely amazing that an elevator costs that much. But these are the types of issues that we have to deal with, and we should bring this up too, that Michael Freemuth mentioned this, that the Church Street Garage has been a very good asset for the CRDA. They purchased it for $14 million from the city a few years ago, and they're actually making profit off it, and that money helps secure and put money back into the Excel Center. So if you want to, help the Excel Center out, park in the Church Street Garage. It actually helps funnel money into the Excel Center, and not just that, but it was brought up that the concessions at hockey games, the amenities, the Bears, your classic choice of beers, that hockey fans do drink a lot of beer. It's kind of new news. I never heard that before. But apparently we're like top of the list out of all the events of the Excel for concession sales. That also makes money for the Excel Center. And lastly, I'll point out that Freemuth pointed out that $3 million it was in the hole when they took over the Excel. And they've broken that down to now they got about $600,000 in debt. So all the repairs, all the hard work, all the rearranging, making new amenities, making sales, bringing in new clients and customers. So they've actually been able to lower the red mark on this Excel Center down to $600,000. So when people say, why do we need a new Excel Center? Well, do you want to throw your tax dollars down a hole? It's like a boat, for crying out loud. You're just throwing it. Or do you want to have them rebuild this Excel Center so we have a state-of-the-art arena, whether the NHL comes or not? We'll be ready if a team should, come here.
And that's really what we've talked about ever since we started talking about the Excel Center renovation is like Bob Saint said, they're taking 3 steps forward, then they have to stop to replace what's breaking down.
Right.
And it's not little breakdowns.
No.
The breaker that's $500, like you said, really is a whole panel that costs $15,000.
Yeah.
So, they're doing what they can with the monies they've been given, and we're hoping that the bonding commission will push more money their way in the upcoming years to get that done. The other thing we did find out recently is one of our sources has confirmed that the Phoenix Coyotes last season did contact the city of Hartford and the state through a third party and asked some very initial questions on relocation.
Preliminary.
Yeah, very preliminary. But it was confirmed that Phoenix did contact the city and the state about relocating to Hartford.
Right.
Again, like you said, it's kind of window shopping, see what's out there.
Yeah, it's like when you go to buy a car, you get a bunch of quotes. That's how it was kind of explained to me. And, when you look at that, people say, well, the NHL has no idea what's going on in Hartford. Well, then why are the Coyotes? I'll tell you what, they didn't contact Binghamton. They didn't contact, Birmingham, Alabama.
Right.
They contacted markets that would be in the interest of an NHL team. So you're talking about Quebec, they probably talked to. They probably talked to,
Yep.
they talked to Hartford, we know. And, maybe they poked around Hamilton.
And that's the other thing
Yep.
you have to talk about is June 22nd, the Board of Governors is meeting.
Right.
And we know, as was reported in the Boston Globe yesterday, that it seems almost 100% that they will announce Las Vegas as the expansion team.
Right.
That's going to give $500 million
Yeah.
to the NHL as that $500 million application fee. And then to add a team to the league. Unfortunately, it's not Hartford,
Yeah.
but again, we don't have enough money for an expansion team.
No.
We're looking for that relocation team, and hopefully it's a team, like I've said in the past, that we can buy without a lot of debt attached
Yeah,
to
that's
it.
got some stuff together that's not falling apart at the seams, but, beggars can't be choosers at the same time, it seems like.
Yeah.
But, Freemuth did mention one other thing about meeting with the governor. This is back, he said back in February, he kind of, had a chat with the governor, and the governor said, look, I can't do the bulk of the $250 million XL renovation. However, I don't want to lose sight of that. I want you to keep moving, fix what you can. So that's what they're doing this summer, is fixing what they can within, they did have a small budget to work with. But the CRDA took an 18% cut in their funding for this season. That includes the convention center, the tennis, down in New Haven, and also the XL Center and the Rentschler Field. So, all those venues, we took a kind of a big hit. So this is kind of a rough year. It's been a big budget crunch. Malloy's has got terrible ratings, and it's been called the worst governor in America at this point. But at least for Whaler fans, we know that he has not dropped the XL Center, and I think him keeping that going shows that he still has interest in bringing an NHL team here, and if not that, making UConn a world-class collegiate, franchise or a team in
Yeah, a tenant
in Hartford.
A tenant
Yeah.
in a hopefully a
Long-term
renovated-
tenant,
Yeah,
yeah.
a renovated XL Center, which benefits all of us, really.
Right.
You're not going to go to a piece of crap arena and watch a hockey game. The XL Center did a great job with the monies they had.
Right.
A lot of it we didn't see, and we've talked about it in the past. Most of the stuff you didn't see that they had to fix. Yeah, the fan bar looks great. It's exceeding expectations, which is wonderful.
Right.
But now, with the ice pad that they have to do next summer,
Right.
that will be a major step in the right direction.
Yeah, and like I said, it's great because it makes the ice, state of the art.
Yeah.
The Wolfpack and other players. I play on the XL Center ice with a team, and they've talked about how the ice is just not that good. And we talked to the Zamboni driver. Was it Wayne Knight?
Yeah, Wayne Knight, yep.
And he
Scoop.
said, yeah, Scoop.
Yep.
And he says, yeah, they're doing the best they can, but the ice gets choppy or gets a little. So players would really appreciate it if there's a nice solid ice sheet, state of the art, brand new. They close up the tunnels that are underneath the XL Center that used to access the underneath. So that's a $2.5 million job, which sounds like a lot, but at the same time, you're making this floor now. It's really going to be a professional ice rink, and not 42-year-old.
And you don't have to worry about someone like Chris Lawrence said. Someone goes into a corner and the ice isn't as good. They twist an ankle, they get hurt.
Right.
Now you have a bigger issue that
Yeah.
you have a player that's out.
Right.
And especially now, because we have coupled with the Wolfpack, you have UConn playing. You have so many more hockey games than you're used to, really.
Right.
You have 40 nights with the Wolfpack, or 38 or 35, depending
Yeah.
what the schedule's like.
Right.
And then you add 15, 20 games
Yeah.
with UConn hockey.
Yeah.
That's 50 games.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's more than that.
Yeah,
I'm
Freemuth
sorry.
brought it up, 55 hockey games
Yeah.
this past season, including UConn and the Wolfpack, and and they talk about doing 165 dates this upcoming season, and I was, that includes, the possibility of going dark over the summer.
Yeah.
So the XL Center is going to keep getting busy. It's old news, but they got great support from the corporate area when they put in premium seating. Not only did that show that there's corporate interest in the XL Center, which is great to promote the renovation, saying if we get more corporate premium seating, people will buy into that. But it also shows that there's a demand for it. There's a demand for premium seating. The NHL is going to love that.
And like you said, the increase with people parking in the garage,
Yeah.
the concession sales, and then you couple those sponsors, or those corporate sponsors that are buying those seats,
Right.
that's where they made that chunk of money.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's very important. And if they can sell out 165 events for this upcoming year, that's another bite they can take out of that
yeah.
600,000 that they're
Yeah.
still in the red. but they're gaining on it. And,
Yeah.
and the only way to gain on it is to keep on having events and being successful
Yeah,
having those events.
yeah. In 2 or 3 years, they reduced the red, tape down 80% when you think about that. And just imagine if you had a fully renovated Excel Center, how in the black it would be, even without the NHL. This is why we tell people this is going to happen. You can look at the budget and go, oh my gosh, the state has no money. They can't do this. They can't do that. They're not going to shut down the schools. They're not going to shut down the fire departments. They're not going to shut down the police. And they're probably not going to shut down the Excel Center. I think there's going to be enough momentum. We talk about this too, and it was mentioned at the Business for Downtown meeting. Over 500,000 people go to the Excel Center without the NHL. So that's just too many people. That's 1 in 6 people in the state go to the Excel Center. So when you think about that, obviously you don't get a lot from the Fairfield area, but I mean, people within that 45-minute drive, that's a 1.3 million people market. They're going to the Excel Center and in good numbers. And for a building that's 42 years old, it's not too shabby.
And really, this is not the time to discuss a renovation. Not only due to the budget, that's the obvious thing, but this whole thing that's happening over at the Yard Goats Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you live in Hartford or just read about it,
Yeah.
if you ever announced that you were doing anything with the XL Center right now, this is not the time to announce it.
No.
It's a
a lot of politics to it, yeah.
This is ugly for the city. I feel very bad for Mayor
Oh, it's
Bronin.
horrible.
Mayor Bronin's a great guy, but you know what? He walked into a storm.
Yeah,
And
just put mildly.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And he's trying to do what he has to do to balance his budget.
Right.
And then, on top of it, now take care of this problem that exists at the baseball stadium.
Yeah, it's really bad to the point now where they're, considering looking at other venues again, because Norwich is just so far away. We did hear from somebody that they even might be looking at Muzzy Field, which is ironic because the franchise began in Muzzy Field and moved to Bristol, the Beehive, and then to the Aaron Stewart Memorial Stadium. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but so the Britain Bees are still in the Atlantic League in New Britain, but they may have a neighbor if the Yard Goats end up, looking at Muzzy Field or a stadium around there. It's that bad that the city had to fire the developer of the building, and that's still in a little bit of contested a little bit. The insurance claim has gone in, and what basically the city is saying is like, hey, we got stuck with this. We're not complete. Rumors are that they're about 95% complete.
No,
and other
that's
rumors
really
are
a rumor.
Yeah, they're a lot
they're-
farther down than that.
They're saying 60 days it can be completed.
Yeah.
Now, that's probably 60 business days, and on top of it, 60 business days brings you to August 7th, which is the end of the season.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, you can make the playoffs.
if they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They drop from first to second. So, I feel bad, for the city of Hartford. I feel bad for the taxpayers that are footing the bill for this.
Yeah.
And now you have a developer who I wouldn't even hire to build a cardboard box fort for my kids in the backyard.
To rearrange your sock drawer, I wouldn't. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
and that's what the problem is switching developers. Gets involved with insurance companies and disputes and appeals. So it can actually make it take longer. I mean, they may not even play this year. And we're not really baseball guys, and quite frankly, I could have cared less if the Yard Goats came or went. It would be nice to add that to an NHL team coming in, but it's been such a disaster, and the thing that's really sad, and I'll give credit to Jeff Jacobs because he pointed this out in his column, is that the average Joe out there who doesn't really know Hartford or what's going on is thinking, if they can't do the Yard Goats, there's no way they get in the NHL. They're completely two different things.
You have Hartford and the state.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful that the state didn't get involved in that.
Yeah.
Because now they can focus on the Excel Center.
Right.
And not deal with a horrible project.
Right.
And, I do blame the previous administration.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I do believe the mayor made a deal with all his friends who happen to be center plate and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because he thought he was going to walk uncontested into this election. And then Mayor Bronin came in and just took them away.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now, all these people that had all these promises are sitting and saying, what do we do now?
Yeah, the difference is the city of Hartford has had some big screw-ups. They screwed up on the soccer stadium. That's still under, according to the current federal investigation. That's how bad that one is, when no one's even talking about it yet. The Yard Goats thing was a mess. Those were city things. The CRDA gets things done. As we brought up, they lowered the debt on the Excel Center 80%. They've got progress, and it's been backed up over the last couple of years. We align ourselves with the CRDA and just about anything. We want to support them any way they can because they're a group of people that really know how to get things done, and they're good people. Everyone we've talked to has been absolutely fantastic. We're just a couple of schmucks with a TV show, but they've been great to us, and we couldn't appreciate that anymore. And they really haven't had any problems. They've been doing very well with what they can, and every time they take a piece of the Excel Center apart, they find another problem. So they have to navigate through all that stuff. So
And you touched on the CRDA. We are going out for part 2 of our apartment tour with Terrell Smith from the CRDA, who was our gracious tour guide last time.
She put up with us?
She put up with us,
Yeah.
and she actually invited us back, which is really nice.
Yeah, really,
You know,
really.
she's either pressured by Michael Freemuth, or she actually likes us. We
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
have to ask her.
Yeah.
But we'll be going out and about with our producer, Peter, and Peter's behind the glass tonight.
Yeah.
And we are going to go out there, and it'll be phase 2 of these luxury apartments.
Yeah.
And the numbers you got from
Yeah.
the meeting were very, very nice.
Yeah. They got 80% occupancy rate. Everyone's under 40. They're professionals from outside of the city. So you're bringing in finally people from the suburbs that sit in there. So many people in the suburbs sit there and they don't want to do anything with Hartford. But they've gotten great numbers, and we're going to look at places on Asylum Street, a building that's been empty for 17 years. The CRDA is looking at that property. There's also some stuff on Allen Street, which we've been to, and there's also some stuff going on across from the stadium. They still have some land to work with there, and even around the federal courthouse. And a really good piece of property that they're looking at is behind the Bushnell. Those parking lots that are there's tons of parking lots behind the Bushnell. So these are, getting a city back up on its feet like this is great for us because, an NHL team is going to want to come to a city that has good occupancy, has housing, it's in demand. Freemuth did point out also that right now that Hartford's absorbing what they've put out there. So that's what they're kind of doing. So they wait for it to absorb and then they work on the next thing.
Yep.
So
And we can't forget about UConn moving downtown.
Right.
That's going to be a
That's another
huge
good thing.
deal.
Yeah.
That's bringing more young people downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about, a couple thousand students and teachers. They're going to, want something to do at nights. They're going to go to the Excel Center. They can't go to an Excel Center that doesn't have an ice sheet.
Exactly.
And, another thing that was brought up at the Excel Center is when the guys come in here to do concerts, the sound guys, they go absolutely nuts because the lights at the Excel Center are so loud that they distort the effect of the show. Now, when you have the concerts going in the hockey game, you don't really notice it because there's so much noise. But when it's silent and you're trying to work on it, I mean, you hear, it's buzzing. Though.
It's the halogen lights.
Oh, it's like a torture. It's
Yeah.
like you think, you're supposed to give in to give out some secret information. So, those are the type of issues that the building's dealing with.
Front Street, the loft apartments are at what, 69%?
That was the lowest one, 69%, and that was since October they've been open. That's brand new construction.
So
but
they
still,
even haven't hit a year.
Yeah.
And they're at 69%.
Almost at 3/4 full.
Which is
Yeah.
great because those are all one-bedroom apartments.
Right.
And those would be perfect because they're right behind where the UConn main building, administration building.
And they're not all introverts, so that means they're going to want to go out and do something.
Yes.
And
Spend money.
Yeah.
Yes, it's revenue
And
for the city.
buy some beer and watch a hockey game.
And you know what? Have your friends park in the garage.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Church Street.
So, we're going to wrap this up. We have, a couple things that I have on a horizon. Part 2 of that apartment tour. We are going to be doing a Bristol Blues baseball game.
Can't wait for that.
In July. We are starting to get a hold of, trying to get a hold of some former Whalers. I spoke to Peter Good the other night. If you don't know, Peter Good is our hero. He created our Whalers logo.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get him to be our special guest that night.
Yeah.
And we have some other things up our sleeves we're trying to figure out. Maybe some T-shirts to hand out to people.
That'd be nice.
And
Yeah.
so, we're going to wrap this show up. We'll be here next week again. We are the Whaler guys. You guys are Brigade. We're One Nation Under Green. And if you don't agree with us, you can shut your blowhole. You guys have a great night. One Nation Under Green. We're Whaler fans forever.
See you next time.
Good night.